Hey everyone, I'm here doing a series of what is diagnosed as narcissism. The first thing I would like to say is that I've changed the word narcissist from a beautiful 10-letter word that originated from Greek mythology, which they are completely undeserving of even being titled. I've changed the word to turd. So when you hear me refer to the word turd, you know that I am speaking about a narcissist. The abbreviation of TURD to me is total, unacceptable, relentless dysfunction. Pretty much sums it up. I don't feel that they're deserving of some diagnosis. It's more of an excuse for them to be labeled something that's scientific and almost kind of attractive, because again it comes from this Greek mythology word from way back when, which has always been kind of romanticized. I'm hoping that this video does help a lot of you, and one of my biggest goals in doing this series is that you will leave. And it is not an easy task, and it's extremely difficult because the turds want to just completely cover you up and break you down to absolutely nothing. No matter how wonderful you were prior to meeting this turd, their main goal is to make you a crumb on the floor. It's the only time they will feel partially satisfied, if ever. I would like to say that, giving them the title of a narcissist is pretty much giving them allowance to inflict their insanity and darkness on dancers of light. Therefore, they're turds. And they do prey on dancers of light. And hopefully after this series of documentation and through my past experiences, you will be able to feel comfortable enough to know that you are a dancer of light and that these people have to be eliminated from your life. A turd cannot find reason or compromise. It doesn't change. It's discharged waste that hides in open fields of beautiful flowers for the perfect moment that you will step in it, carry it around, and spread its waste to surfaces that you've been trying to keep clean forever. You drag it from room to room, not knowing exactly where the stench is coming from. And when you discover the waste, you have great difficulty removing it, for it's hardened and buried itself into the grooves of your shoes. It takes bleach, warm water, a sturdy rag, and a very strong stomach to try to get rid of all of it. We all have a sick sense of intuition. When I first stepped on my turd, I can recall a voice immediately whispering, "Danger zone." But at that time, I was so free and fearless. I brushed that voice off with an, you're not looking for a relationship. Just go up to it and smell it and see if the smell's really that bad. Well, a turd is a turd. And if you see a pile of it laying on the ground, walk the hell away from it and pass it by. I mean, you wouldn't go play with it like you're going to mold it into your next coffee cup and drink from it. If there's the slightest warning from your empathic, intuitive voice, I advise you to listen. I'm not saying to be paranoid. There's a difference between being fearful of every certain look or action from a person than having an immediate warning jolt through your full core being. Seeing as that most of us will ignore that whispering warning, I will take you into the next phase of terror that disguises itself as heavenly in the beginning. I'm going to use several examples of my experience, and I do hope that you can relate in some form throughout this series. Mine started with dinner. I didn't want to go. I was having lunch with a friend. I'd promised this guy that I would have dinner with him. And he called relentlessly and reminded me that I had given him my word. I am a woman of my word. I feel it's the strongest power that we can have if you say it, mean it, and do it. So I kind of gave him a little credit for being courageous and confident and tenacious and in asking me, because I hadn't been asked on a date in over a year. So he gave me one of two choices. We could go out for dinner, or he could make me dinner at his place. Well, I just wanted to get all of the unanswered questions out of the way. I wanted to see where he lived. I wanted to see how he cooked, what he would make, how his house looked. So I went to his place. He was very clean, he was stylish, his closet was in perfect order, almost color coordinated. He grilled steaks and vegetables and made a Parmesan potato side. He had wine, beer, moonshine, anything you wanted to drink. He grilled steaks. It was delicious, it was wonderful. He cut my steak into pieces and basically almost fed me. He was very mysterious and quiet, and he was relaxed, and I was nervous and chatty and excited. I hadn't been that enamored in 10 years, and he was definitely my kind of guy. We then talked about jewelry, and he went into his room and gave me a silver and turquoise ring. It was very unique, but it was just my style. And I once again melted to the floor, even more so that evening. Too much to drink, I spent the night. This wasn't unusual for me because, I travel for a living, and I do a lot of couch surfing on the road. The morning was delightful with fresh coffee and overlooking the mountains from his deck with endless views. He told me that he was leasing this home that he was in to own. That was the first lie, and that was the first day. He did not lease that home to own. He was renting it. He worked at a pawn shop, which should have told me everything right there, but not passing judgment very often. I kind of found it sexy that he got to carry a gun, and he worked with bad boys all day long. Immediately after, it was an everyday thing. We were together constantly. My turd smeared himself all over everything I owned immediately. Within weeks, he was putting a ring on my finger, asking me to marry him. He claimed my dog is his. He walked through my door at all hours without being invited. He used the word we in every conversation. With my friends, with me, with my family. He had no friends. He had lived in this town that I live in for years and years, and anyone that did know him gave me huge warnings and begged me not to go in that direction. But I love the underdogs, and I protected him. I sided with him. I was in love for the first time in my life. I was completely smitten. And even though it bothered me that he was intrusive, I found excuses like, oh, he's just crazy about me. He can't go without seeing me for hours. He loves me. So I excused that behavior. Again, these beings are relentless. Nothing is ever enough. They don't care about your time, your job, your privacy, boundaries, nothing. It has to please them. You have to please them. The disagreements will begin almost immediately. The warnings are all right there. They watch every single move you make. They watch your eyes when you look and you speak of your past and present. They study what makes you tick. They take every single ounce of information and gather it into a basket and just sit and wait to see which card to pull out in which situation. These are all red flags for you to know the beginning of your nightmare and what your life is about headed towards. These romantic, charming, clever acts are all for show, and they're to gain their power over you. There is nothing sincere in their actions. But because you are a normal, compassionate, nurturing, open spirit, you fall, and you'll fall hard. How in the world could any of it be manipulative? You don't manipulate, so how could you possibly be manipulated? You think to yourself that you're worth the romance, the giving, the attention, the love. You've been longing for it. And here it is. And it's okay if he's a bit overboard. In time, it'll all balance itself out. You got this, right? You're going to be the perfect couple. Please join me in Series 2 when we will talk about the reaction to confronting a turd.